I am so frustrated at myself right now. I didn't intend to make coasters. These are a little too thin for coasters. I mean, they're going to work. And these are beautiful, but I didn't want to make coasters. I wanted to make little bowls. And what happened, I got distracted. So what happened was I forgot to check my molds, and these had already cured too much. I could have demolded them and tried to make little bowls, but it just did not. They were just too cured, and so I'm gonna try again. And I hate to say it, but this is my third try, so maybe the third time will be the charm. I don't know. The first try was kind of a disaster. This was my first try. This is kind of what I'm going for, but these are just a little bit too abstract. I don't think I'm going to sell these. I think I'm going to end up probably using these in another project. I don't know. Third time's the charm, I hope. Let's get started. I'm almost sick right now. I just went on a walk, took my dog for a little walk, and my neighbor lost their plumeria tree. Well, two of them. They had these gigantic plumeria. The trees fell over in the storm, and they had these beautiful blooms. I'm going to try drying these and making some coasters. I'll have a link in the description to the microwave flower press that I used for this project. I dried the pink flowers. I didn't dry the yellow flowers, but the pink flowers, I probably pressed, I don't know, 2 dozen of them. It is a lot faster than waiting 2 to 3 weeks for silica gel to dry your flowers. The only problem that I have found with the microwave flower press is that it does change the color just a little bit. You can see I'm getting a nice violet color rather than the deep pink, but I'm okay with that. And Tip doesn't mind it because he's just a cute little puppy and all he cares about is treats. This took less than an hour, start to finish. So now let's go make some coasters. I keep my molds pretty clean, but I like to take a piece of duct tape or painter's tape just to get out any loose debris. And trust me when I say it is so much easier to do this without gloves because duct tape will stick to anything. Each one of these little flowers, you wouldn't think it, but each one holds 50 milliliters. But I don't want to fill it all the way to the top because what I want to do is make a little bowl. So kind of like, the large bloom bowls, kind of like this one, but in a smaller form. And if I fill it all the way to the top, it's going to make it too thick. So I got my Let's Resin mixer. I'm going to I've not used it on the stand yet because it is, the cup does not stick very well to this little mat. So I was going to try adding a little glue dot and see if that will help it stick a little bit. Each mold holds 50 milliliters, but I'm only going to mix up 25 milliliters per mold, so 100 milliliters total. And I'm using the Let's Resin Fast Cure, which is perfect for molds. Now, I did add a glue dot to the bottom of the cup, but it did not stick at all to that little silicone mat. So I ended up just using the handle like a hand blender, like you would mix up a smoothie. And then I always like to clean the paddle when I'm done because it's a lot easier to clean the resin while it's wet rather than wait until it's dry. What I am going to do is use my Resiner's bubble remover, and this thing is so cool. I set the timer to 5 minutes on the machine, and it's a perfect amount of time for this type of resin. So what the machine does, it creates it's a vacuum chamber. It creates a vacuum and it's going to pull all the bubbles to the top of the cup. But what you want to be careful is not to overfill your cup. I like to do about halfway because what will happen, the bubbles will come to the surface, and if you've got too much in your cup, it will overflow and create a huge mess. 5 minutes was the perfect amount of time for this resin. So this was perfect. I did have to pour the resin into another cup. So you see this is a different cup. And I even had to change my shirt. I don't know what happened, but the cup that I was using had a crack in it or something, and I kind of made a mess on the counter, and I also made a mess on my shirt. Now these molds, if you fill them all the way to the top, hold 50 milliliters, which is a lot. And I'm only going to use them about halfway, so roughly half of the amount of resin, roughly. And I don't have bubbles, but I want to heat my resin up just a little bit. So I'm going to use my heat gun so I can get it spread around a little bit. Actually, I could just do this. Let's do that. Okay, that gives us a nice, even little distribution there. So I am going to hit it with the heat gun because I want to make sure I don't have air bubbles around the edges. So low heat and high, actually low air too. I'm just going to real quickly pop the bubbles around the edges. Okay, I think that I got all the bubbles out. Looks like it. I'm running out of flowers now. So this is not the perfect way to do it, but this is what I'm going with. I'm gonna just squish out the air, and I'm gonna use my gloved hand because I don't want to bruise the flowers. I think that using the stick is gonna bruise the flowers a little bit too much. Because I'm making bowls, I'm not making coasters, I'm kind of breaking a lot of the so-called rules of coaster making with dried flowers where you would work in reverse and um, you lay your flowers down, you let that first layer cure, and then you go back over with another. But because I need both, I can't let that first layer cure because if I do that, the bowls won't be pliable enough. Or what am I saying? The resin, yeah, the resin won't be pliable enough. It'll be too cured, and then I can't form it into a bowl. Now these are going to float a little bit, and we're going to try to mitigate that. All right, I'm going to let this resin sort of self-level, but I want to just really gently, so there's some trapped air, and that's trapped underneath, I don't know what that is, that's trapped underneath the flower. So because these are floating a little bit, some of the little petals are wanting to poke up. And so I just want to see if I can kind of push them down gently, but I don't want to manipulate it too much because then I end up with little spots on the surface of the resin. And that's kind of the whole point of doing 2 layers when you're using fresh flowers. These look pretty even. You do break some rules when you're doing it this way because normally when you're working with fresh flowers, you do 2 layers. The first layer sets the flower in place, and then you do that second layer. And what that does is it covers up the little tips. But right now, the tips are exposed, and that's okay because when I make the bowl, you're not going to see them anyway, like when you do a coaster. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to leave it. Okay. So I'm setting my timer. It's 1:45. I'm going to check on these at 3:45, 4 o'clock, and see what we got. You know, I'm not going to be worried about those bubbles either. All right. Remember, I said this was my third attempt at making these bowls. The first attempt, and this is the reason why I'm setting my timer. My first attempt, I demolded too soon, and the resin was so soft. They really just didn't turn out very well. And then my second attempt, I left them in the mold, and instead of making bowls, I ended up making coasters, which, I mean, they're cute. You'll see them in a minute. Okay, it has been 2.5 hours, and I think these are ready now. And I'm going to try something that I don't know if this will work, but I think it will. So when I did the first ones in this bowl, it was just hard to. I don't want the bottom to be so flat. So I'm going to try using a shaper sheet, and this is a shaping foil that a lot of hobbyists use. So I have a link in the description to it. So I'm gonna see, um, these may actually still be a little too sticky. So see, when I demold it, and my fingerprint has left an indent, but when I try to pull it away from the mold, it's stretching the resin a little bit too much, and it looks like it's wrinkled right there. So see right there. So that's the mistake I made with that first set, and that's why I just got a really weird shape. So I'm going to leave it another 30 minutes or so. And leaving it too long is the mistake I made with the second set. So let's just give this a little bit more time. Okay, these are good to go now. I'm going to get my gloves on so I do not smudge anything. Let's start with this one first. So shaper sheet is like really thick aluminum foil, but it's used a lot in art projects, and it holds its shape. So I'm hoping that I can use this to create the petals on the bowl. So I'm really hoping that this is not going to wrinkle up. So I think I've actually caught it at the perfect time. So 1:45, so roughly 3.5 hours. See how pliable it is? But it's not wrinkling too bad. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay it on my shaper sheet and then form my petals like this. Okay. See how it's kind of, you see it? It's sort of maintaining the shape. And then I can kind of manipulate it the way that I want. And it is still wrinkling a little bit. But I don't know if there's really a way to kind of avoid that. So these are going to be like little bowls. Okay, let's try one more. I wonder if it would be easier to form it first. No, probably not. So see, what I'm trying to do is see the little petals. I want that to be one of the petals that kind of forms out, if that makes sense, or in. But I'm corresponding the folds, or I'm trying to. we go. So bend it in and then get my shaper sheet in there. There we go, that's better. There we go. Oh, that's going to be cute. I can already tell that it's going to take a little bit of practice, but this may work out really, really well for these smaller coaster bowls. Yeah, that one's perfect. Yeah, it's gonna get better at it as I keep doing it, if this works. So waiting roughly 3.5 hours, almost 4 hours, seems like for this resin to be almost the perfect time. These already look so much better than the first ones. All right, and now we wait another couple of hours for it to fully cure. And trying to, I don't want them perfect, but I do want them somewhat uniform and not splotchy, because this one right here was a hot mess. So let's just see how these turn out. I'm excited to see them. Okay, I'm a little bit nervous about demolding. It's been I don't know, 12 hours, I guess, because I did these last night, but they're not sticking a lot better. So the resin is still wrinkly. So you see how it kind of wrinkled, I think, the inside as I formed it. I think it's because it's not consistently cured throughout, and then maybe I needed to wait a little bit more. I don't know, but I love the shape. I think these are really cute. These are really, really cute. The flower cracked in this one just as I was forming the bowl. So wrinkly. Why is it wrinkly? Just as an example, this one I demolded way too soon. The resin was still sticky, and you could see the resin itself was really stretchy. These weren't as stretchy, but I still got those wrinkles. So I don't know. Maybe a fast cure is not the way to go. I don't know. Maybe we'll try another one. But I love the shape. Absolutely love the shape. These are so cute. Like little trinket bowls. I love them. So they are definitely the shape that I want, but still wrinkly. So, full disclosure, I'm going to show you all the warts, basically. But these are really pretty. These are really, really pretty. Maybe I should have left them in there a little bit longer. I don't know. Maybe we'll try it again, but well, let me know. Was the third time the charm? Third time was definitely the charm. All right, make it a crafty day, friends. Bye. I almost forgot to show you the coasters. So remember, these are the coasters that I demolded too late and I couldn't make the bowls, but they're perfect coasters. So what I did was I applied a really, really thin layer of resin on the top. I domed it basically. Um, the resin was a little bit thick, so it cured really fast because I was using the fast cure. So the edges were a little ugly, so I cheated a little bit and added some glitter around the edge, and I absolutely love them. These are so cute. These are so cute. They're perfect. Look at that. These are absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. So I think this was a good save. I think this was a good save.